plains of Megiddo. Megiddo. Did I pronounce that right? So it looks like from the actual valley floor. It's cool. Heading up the hill to the Mount of Transfiguration. I think this is a Arab town, real small town, and they have a big mosque down there if I can get it, minaret. There's another mosque, so two mosques in one small town, Arab writing. So yeah, must be predominantly Muslim here, but we are in the Israel area. Wow, look at that. Oh, and there's a sign to the Church of the Ascension. Well, it's a cool drive up the mountain. And here's the gate to the Church of the Ascension. Wow, how cool is that? Look at that. That's a Crusader style gate. There was originally actually a Byzantine church up here that got destroyed by the Muslims during the first conquest of the Holy Land in the 600s. And then the Crusaders came in 1189, I'm sorry, 1099 AD. Then in 1189, the Muslims chased them out under Saladin. They came up here and destroyed the Crusader church that had replaced the Byzantine one. Then I think it was in the 1800s, the Franciscan monks, who I mentioned in Jerusalem, were made the custodians of the holy sites. And in the 1800s, that was actually right after the Crusader period, when the Muslims destroyed all the Christian holy sites, with a few exceptions, like a Church of the Holy Sepulchre. But this gate, I think, was built in the 1800s. But you see the Crusader emblem at the top. This was the emblem that the Crusaders had actually used for themselves during the Crusades, and then the Franciscan monks adopted it for themselves. So that's now the official Franciscan monk emblem. It's got 5 crosses that symbolize the 5 wounds of Christ during the crucifixion, the 2 on his hands, the 2 on his feet, and the 1 at his side. So not really a Crusader structure, but you know, close enough. Cool history. Let's go check it out. So this is the Church of the Ascension. Yeah, so I was right about the gate. I looked at my notes, and the gate was built in 1897 over the original Crusaders gate. So that's kind of cool. The monastery itself, Franciscan monastery, was built in 1920, and this is to commemorate the site of where Jesus was transfigured. Wow, look at this. It's a beautiful building. And this mountain does compete with another location farther north, up in the Golden Heights, called Mount Hermon. But researched it, and I think this is the right mountain, just based on where Jesus would have been at the time. And another factor too, I'll talk about in a couple of minutes. But so no one knows the exact spot up here, of course, but this is where they built the church, and looks pretty cool. And this is a Latin inscription of the story of the Transfiguration, which I might just sit down and read on camera for fun. So there's Jesus, of course, being transfigured. There's Moses with the Ten Commandments. That's Elijah, Prophet Elijah. Both came down from heaven in physical form. Elijah was raptured, quote unquote, translated into a glorified body and taken to heaven. And Moses, most people don't realize, but the Bible kind of implies that, actually implies very strongly that he was resurrected after his death. I could explain that if you want to ask me. And so they're both in heaven right now in physical glorified bodies, which of course is what eventually ended up happening to Jesus. When he came up here, he was on his way back to Jerusalem where he'd be crucified and then 3 days later resurrected and then 40 days after that ascended to heaven in physical form. This, I'm guessing, where's my finger? This, I'm guessing, is Peter. That's probably James standing. And then this would be John, because he was the humble one. And again, just guessing that the peacocks down here symbolize immortality, which is the promise made to all believers. Jesus is the first fruits of the resurrection, the word tells us. So one day we'll all be translated, either raptured or resurrected, spend eternity in our physical bodies. Okay, I won't read the passage of the Bible, but I think most of us are probably familiar with the story of the Transfiguration. The story is that Jesus climbed up to the top of a mountain, probably the one that I'm standing on right now, and with three of his disciples, Peter, James, and John, John who wrote the book of Revelation, of course. And up here, Jesus met with Moses and Elijah. They came down from heaven in a physical form and had a meeting with Jesus, and the Bible doesn't tell us one word what they discussed, but one hint might be this. Down here is the Israel Valley, parts of the plains of Megiddo. Off in this direction is Harmageddo, we call Armageddon, where I was this morning. And so just knowing the proximity now of Mount Tabor, the Mount of Ascension to the to Harmageddo, makes me think that, and it's just, my own hypothesis, but maybe they were talking about what was going to happen here one day. And at the end of the passage in Matthew chapter 17, Jesus said to his disciples that Elijah will come first. I've been writing my book now for about 10 years. I spent the last 4 years just in Revelation chapter 11, which is the story of the two witnesses, which is really what got me into studying about Israel and the third temple and everything that I'm really trying to learn about now. And the two witnesses, I believe, based on their descriptions in Revelation 11, are again Elijah and Moses, the type of the rapture and the type of the resurrection. And the story is that they're going to come back at the beginning of the Great Tribulation, again, my hypothesis, and preach against the Antichrist during the first half of the Great Tribulation, and then the word does tell us that the Antichrist kills them at that point. So, yeah, kind of makes sense, right? Up here talking to Jesus, Jesus was glorified. It says that his face shone like the sun, and so probably getting him prepared for his death and resurrection, which was coming up pretty quickly, and then maybe also talking about the future and showing him a vision, perhaps, of that great battle that we call the Battle of Armageddon that's going to take place right down below us here. These are ruins of the 12th century Crusaders Church, and you can see that the Franciscans incorporated parts of the remaining wall into their new church here. Here's an archer position, just like we saw in the old city walls to defend the fortress here, the church. Didn't work, obviously. more remains of the Crusaders Church, supposedly on this side. And these look like pretty old stones here, so I'm guessing that, yeah, that's a good guess. These steps, yeah, this is part of the original Crusaders Church also. So we're walking on that, pretty cool. This is out toward the Sea of Galilee, which, if it was a clear day, I'd be able to see the Sea of Galilee. Don't have time to make it there on this trip, but it's out there somewhere. Driving up to see the Israeli-Lebanese border right now, if I can find it before dark. Just want to check that out. And getting real pretty around here. A lot of forest. Some music for Pastor Jimmy. I don't know if that's Lebanese or not, but sounds close to me. If Pastor Jimmy starts dancing, it's Lebanese music. Okay, just pulled off the highway into a little town called Zarid, which is right up on the border with Lebanon. So I'm noticing a lot of signs in Arabic. I hope this is another Muslim town. Those can be dangerous, but so I'm going to start looking for the border fence now. I've got a map that should kind of get me there. We'll see. Zarid was a bust. I couldn't find access to the border fence, if that's even possible at all. I'm thinking maybe the IDF guards that are even UN security troops, I believe, are up here right now. But tomorrow I'm going down to Sderot to see the situation down there, check everything out, and that's the little town down by Gaza. It's about a mile away from the Gaza border that gets shelled sometimes every day. I think it's been about 2 weeks since the last incident from Hamas in Gaza, and also Islamic Jihad, which is a proxy of Iran. That means that Iran's financing them and training them, so a little bit more dangerous than Hamas, who actually also gets financed and trained by Iran. Complicated, but in any event, I was just in Zarid. I'm headed for Aram Shah, and these little border towns up here on the Lebanese border are actually, nothing ever happens. I mean, it's been a few years since anything happened, but they're actually a lot more dangerous, especially nowadays, than any of the towns down in the Negev by Gaza, because they're a mile or maybe even closer to the Lebanese border fence, and right on the other side of that fence is Hezbollah territory. It's actually not the Lebanese government that controls those areas. Make sure I don't get lost here. But Hezbollah controls the whole south of Lebanon these days, and the Lebanese government supposedly hates Israel and wants Israel dead and all that, but secretly behind the scenes, the Lebanese government is working with the Israeli government. They're trying to come up with a solution. Neither one of them want Hezbollah along this border, but the governments out there just lost control. So pretty much anything south of Beirut, I believe, maybe a little bit farther south than that. But so yeah, right now I'm about a mile away from literally Hezbollah territory. What's so bad about Hezbollah? Hezbollah is Iran. That is Iran's terrorist organization. Use that term, terrorist. And these guys are potentially extremely dangerous. Hold on. This is my first look up into southern Lebanon, Hezbollah territory. I'm sure that's what I'm seeing out there, because we're right along the border right here. Yeah, just confirmed on my map I'm on the border right now, so definitely seeing into southern Lebanon. Just lost my view. Hold on. But anyways, yeah, so what I said before, I didn't mean to say potentially dangerous. I mean Hezbollah, come on, they're extremely dangerous. They're very well trained, heavily financed, heavily armed, and they control the south. up here in Israel's north. And the situation now, I'm sure we all know, you know, if we watch the news at all, Iran's been working hard to develop nuclear weapons technology, and that's something that no one in the Western world wants, including the United States, the United Nations, very concerned about it, but Israel especially. I mean, for them it's an existential issue. If Iran gets nukes, Israel's in pretty grave danger. And Ahmadinejad, the Iranian president, has actually said, you know, on several occasions that he wants to wipe Israel off the map, quote unquote. So Israel, you know, it's got to act. It's going to have to protect itself, and it's ready to right now. It wants to do a first strike on Iran, just take out the nuclear weapons facilities, which really it's not even going to be able to do. And Israel knows it. The U.S. knows it. That the best that we're going to be able to do, even if we work together really closely on this one, is set back the Iranian nuclear weapons program by a couple or a few years, you know, at best. So we're really kind of just delaying the inevitable. But in the meantime, Israel's ready to strike right now. You know, the longer they wait, the more Iran, you know, gets set in. And hold on, I'm trying to get a good view of Lebanon here. I don't know. But President Obama has asked Israel to please wait until after the November elections, because he's done this through, you know, back channel through the State Department. But he's asking Israel to wait until November because Obama doesn't want to. President Obama doesn't want to risk big conflict over here in the Middle East right before the election, because that could, you know, of course, hurt his chance of getting reelected. Obama's administration has indicated that Israel's not going to get the full backing and support of the U.S. Will help a little bit if they do a strike before November. If they wait till after November, then they get our full, you know, support and help. So just my opinion, I don't think it's cool. I don't think that we should be playing politics with people's lives like this. So again, I'm guessing June, which is, you know, next month, and I could be wrong. But whatever the case, it is going to happen. When it does happen, this whole area, see how beautiful and peaceful and idyllic it is. This whole area is going to be a complete war zone. So I'm coming up now to this little town called Hanita, and look how nice the town is here, even closer to Lebanon than the other two that I filmed, and actually a nicer town too, it looks like, but really super close. In fact, I'm guessing up on that hill is southern Lebanon. I believe it's that close, but this is probably going to be my best bet to get to the border fence, and if I can't get there from here, then this is about as close I'm getting, I guess, to Lebanon. But you can see a lot of activity up here, people living normal lives, and everything looks fine. The most recent full-scale war up here was just in 2006, and about 1,200 people got killed in that exchange, and since then there have been a few border clashes here and there, and just a couple of deaths. The most recent activity was just this last November. There was some rocket fire exchanged, and no casualties in that, just some damage to some buildings. But yeah, just as recently as 6 months ago, you know, incidents up here. So keep my eyes open. Beautiful country though, isn't it? Check it out. Yay! I found the Israeli-Lebanese border. Look at that. So in case you can't read Hebrew or Arabic, oh, it's in English too. No entry, closed military area, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. And a nice big iron gate there with a big lock on it. So yeah, it looks like I'm not going to be right on the border fence today. And look, I don't look relieved at all, do I? Yeah, I was looking forward to seeing it, but this is cool. I mean, this is close. So here's another one. Stop. Border ahead. So other access to the fence line here, but I'm not gonna get that close, it looks like. Here's my rental car. Just wanted to get the view from up here. That's Lebanon behind me, and this is Israel down below me here. Just look how beautiful it is. But look at the size of these towns. I had no idea. And there's just dozens of them out here. really nice towns. And yeah, these things are in the direct line of fire. In fact, during the 2006 Lebanon War, rockets, Katyusha rockets, those are the real accurate ones that are much longer range than the Qassam rockets. Some of those made it all the way down into Haifa, where I'm spending the night tonight, but that's a pretty long way down the coast. So these towns here, I mean, there's just dozens of them. And I'm gonna try to zoom in here, but these little Israeli towns are gonna seriously be in peril, and this could be as soon as next month if things go that way, and they seem to be headed that way. But so just right up behind me here, look at the marine layer coming in off the Mediterranean. Isn't that neat? Reminds me of home. I mean, old home, San Francisco. But this is Lebanon up here behind me, probably about a mile back. We're real close right here. Just passed through, sorry, eating a granola bar. Just passed through some kind of a security gate, and the IDF kid let me in. Probably supposed to do that, gosh. But not quite sure where I am here. So what that IDF kid is guarding is some kind of a little town up here. There's a playground over there, kids playing, and I think that's what I see. And then signs that talk about like technology companies or something, I think I'm seeing. But anyways, yeah, so I mean, this is wild. They've got IDF guarding it, and that's why the kid let me in. I mean, I don't look like Hezbollah, I don't think, do I? I haven't shaved in a day or two. But yeah, these guys, man, I mean, these guys aren't like a mile away from the border. These guys are on it. So, brave people. So check this out. That little structure up on the hill, whatever it is, that's Lebanon. Right there. Where's the structure? Ah, there it is. It's definitely Lebanon. Oops. Just a little shack up there, I don't know what that is, but check this out, man, how close these people are. It's some kind of little scientific community or something. It's the impression I'm getting. I remember seeing towns like this in Russia where it's like a whole little community of scientists, and just guessing, but just based on, you know, how weird it is to be up here, what the place looks like, and some of the signs I've seen. But look at this, just really neat little houses, and it's a cool place. And they are in a hot zone for sure. Oh, watch out, dogs. Watch out. No, they're not attacking me. So they're not IDF dogs. If they were UN dogs, they'd be surrendering to me. Just kidding. Check this out, Mediterranean. Wow, right around sunset. Where am I here? This is a border crossing. Wow, this is called Rosh Hanikva, and I didn't realize, but I guess there's actually a oh gosh, I think I was yelling at me. I guess there's actually a some kind of border crossing, like a legal border crossing here. I got the Mediterranean and thought, turn right, go north, and just for fun, one last look at the border. And I didn't take film, but I got a photograph of the actual border with Lebanon, and got a couple of cool photographs there. But yeah, I got up there and realized, yeah, it's all Muslims, and they're standing at this border crossing, and they got a little bit nervous, just a little bit, but I just said, hey, you know, how's it going? You speak English? And one guy did, and I says, okay, take a photograph here, and he thought about it for a minute. He told the women to get out of the way. Now, I'd already taken a photo with the ladies in it, and forgot that or wasn't thinking about it, that Muslim women are supposed to be photographed, I guess, or at least by Westerners or whatever, or men who aren't their husbands. I don't remember the rules. But anyways, they didn't see me take that picture. But the guy actually took a picture of me. It says no photography here, but he took a picture of me with the border crossing, so that will be cool. And I asked him, I said, this is actually the Lebanon border crossing. He said, oh yeah, you know, people go back and forth. And actually the kid who took my picture, he seemed friendly enough, and he took the picture, but then he kind of got close to me and was like looking at me. And so I just thought, I better get out of here. So I said, okay, nice to meet you. They said, where are you from? Arizona. Oh yeah. And then all the women were crowding around and smiling and laughing, but a couple of the younger guys looked a little iffy, but they probably get tourists up there all the time. It's a tourist spot. But yeah, so got a picture of the real Lebanese crossing. Oh, I know what was so interesting. I asked the guy, you know, I didn't have time to plan my questions in advance. I asked the guy, I said, doesn't Hezbollah control southern Lebanon? And they all kind of giggled. And he said, yeah, Hezbollah. And I said, is that okay? Are they nice to you guys? You know, didn't really think I'd be asking, you know, talking to these guys, so didn't know what to ask. Is Hezbollah nice to you? Great question. Anyways, yeah, they said, oh yeah, Hezbollah's great. And they said that Hezbollah controls that border right there. I didn't see the guard there, or guards, whatever. But, so, I guess I got closer to the border than I thought I would in the end. Fun stuff. Now I'm headed to Haifa, down the Mediterranean coast. And it'll be dark by the time I get there, but hopefully wake up to a nice morning down there. Yeah, I'm eating here. Pam told me to eat in a nice restaurant tonight since I'm staying in a youth hostel, live it up with the food, and Aaron told me to get seafood while I'm in Haifa, so this is called St. Peter's Fish, and it's great. And I guess this is a Lebanese restaurant? I don't know. Definitely Middle Eastern style. Cool. This is the port district in Haifa, right down by the port, which is actually what I came here to see, believe it or not. And this is where I stayed last night. The Port Inn. They call it a guest house, and what they mean is it's a hostel. I've never stayed in one before, always kind of curious. Had to share a dorm room with 6 other people, male and female. Pretty wild. Here's my car. Not too much damage yet. Just one tiny scratch from the really tight garage in Jerusalem. Darn it. But I got full coverage, so I'm good. This mountain is Mount Carmel or Mount Carmel, and I need to remember to ask a local how to pronounce it. There's a sign. And there's actually a tram that goes up the top and looks pretty cool. I was going to ride it, but I don't really have time. But this is where the prophet Elijah based his ministry out of, and it's also where he defeated the 450 prophets of Baal was on this mountain somewhere. So pretty cool, but that's actually not the reason I'm in Haifa. I'll explain when I get that good view of the port that I'm after. First good look at the port of Haifa. Pretty cool. Most of what we're seeing here is a new city. Haifa's only really been established and built up in within the last 100 years. So this is a pretty recent phenomenon here. The important port in this area for centuries was Akko, which is way at the north end of the bay, really an ancient city. Cool place. I hope to visit that place one day. During the Crusades, Haifa was an important port. The Crusaders came in mainly through this port, I believe, but by the 18th century it just decayed into really a bad area and was a major lair for pirates during the 18th and 19th centuries. Late 19th century, there was an Austrian journalist, if I remember correctly, Jew, named Theodor Herzl, who established the World Zionist Organization. He decided, inspired by God, obviously, decided that it was time for the Jews to have an actual state of their own, again, 1897. And the word Zionism means this idea of the Jews having an actual state, as opposed to being scattered all over the world in the diaspora. And that's why the word Zionist is really considered a bad word, you know, for most of the world. So 1 year after the World Zionist Organization was founded, Theodor Herzl came to this spot in 1898 and looked at Haifa, and he said that he had kind of a vision or a prophecy that this was going to be a major port. Just a few decades later, in 1933, this port opened, the Port of Haifa, and look how big it is. Today, this is the biggest and most important international port in the state of Israel, competing only with Tel Aviv and the port down in Eilat on the Red Sea. So here's what I'm getting at. I'm trying hard not to be complicated. How am I doing? This is important. This is Haifa here, west coast of Israel. This is the Mediterranean Sea, of course. Beautiful, isn't it? Wow. And here, the B, this is my map from yesterday. This is Megiddo, so you can see a great highway running down from Haifa to Megiddo, the plains of Megiddo, the Jezreel Valley. And then again, as I explained yesterday, the Battle of Armageddon, quote unquote, starts here, just like Revelation 16 states. And then over the next 45 days, the war progresses down along here. West Bank is occupied by the forces that back the Antichrist. And yeah, I'll just come out and say it. I believe that the Islamic world is going to be fighting on the side of the Antichrist. Long story. Not just being mean, but I think that's really factual. So the war works its way down here. This is Highway 6 is just the Army Corps of Engineers' dream. Really, really wide highway, as we saw yesterday. Makes its way into Jerusalem, and right about the end of the 45 days, ends up in the Kidron Valley between the Temple Mount and the Mount of Olives, and this is where the final conflict between the Antichrist and his forces and the forces that are fighting against him. This is where that conflict takes place, and you know, it's all bad, and God wants to put an end to it all. And it's not like good guys and bad guys. It's just this world system that needs to come down, and fortunately, Jesus is going to drop right down on that mountain and put an end to it all right there. So just to explain a little bit more as to why I'm honing in on Haifa and why I actually spent a night here just to check all this out. I wanted to see it firsthand with my own eyes. This is Haifa. This is the port at Haifa. Again, today it's the largest and most important international port. So just perfect setup. I mean, imagine this bay, you know, filled with, you know, battleships and warships and troop transports, and going to be a lot of activity here, getting ready to stage that final battle. And Tel Aviv is to the south of us here, and Tel Aviv, I'm sorry to say, I think is going to be crippled before the Great Tribulation actually starts. The sixth seal in Revelation, which is actually the only thing that we're waiting for, one last sign, honestly, before the Great Tribulation period starts. And this is completely a guess, but and based a lot on current events and the assumption that we're very close to the end times. But hate to say it, not my desire, of course, but I think that Tel Aviv is going to get nuked, so this port is going to be disabled. The only other port is the major port, I should say, is the port in Eilat, down on the Red Sea. This is the Gulf of Aqaba. Even today, at this very moment, Iran is threatening to close the Gulf of Aqaba. It's flanked on both sides by Egypt and Jordan, which, again, if it's the Islamic world fighting on the side of the Antichrist, I think that Eilat's going to be out of the question. There's going to be just no way to get troops up through here. Not to mention it's a longer drive, I believe, for the United States and Great Britain and whoever else is probably going to be fighting on that side. And again, I don't want to go into detail why I'm saying that. It's not just because I'm an American, and it's actually not all positive anyways, but this is through the Negev Desert. It is a highway. Look how far it is to Jerusalem. I mean, Haifa is just ideal. So I think that just based on all these little details, that this is going to be it. This is the official port of the Battle of Armageddon. Cool stuff, huh? Headed south now out of Haifa on Highway 2, which looks a lot like Highway 1 in California. Pretty cool. And I'll be traveling for the next couple of hours south along the Mediterranean coast, down through Tel Aviv and out into the Negev Desert for my meeting today in Sderot. Sderot's a tiny little town that is situated just about a mile from the Gaza Strip, so it's right on the border there, and tiny little peaceful town, but today it really is the front line of the war that has already really started with Iran, and we'll learn more about that when I arrive in a couple of hours. Looking forward to a beautiful drive on the way. Wow.